So we have a guest with us now and wanted to explain why this is recorded. Father Jay, who's going to be introduced in a second, has been hoping for months and months and months to be able to get back into the nursing home where he does some ministry and was not even allowed to really be in, to even wave to people, just to anoint the dying was all he was allowed to do. And they finally invited him to come back and start saying mass. And so he said he wasn't about to say no to that. So he was kind enough to make himself available for this recording. And I'm going to turn it over to Julianne to introduce Father Jay.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's great to be here with everyone today, and we're very grateful to have Father with us. So it's interesting because Father Jay and I first encountered each other at a clergy congress for the Archdiocese of New York, maybe about 2 years ago. And midway through the spring, Father Jay reached out to me. He and his leadership team, his parish council, had been reading Start with Jesus. And what I loved about the email outreach from Father Jay was that he wanted to do things different. He really wanted to take the opportunity that was before us as a church to really look at where his parish was going. And so Father Jay is pastor at St. Stanislaus Kostka parish. He has been in that role since 2011, but has spent 48 years as a pastor. So he comes with a great gift of wisdom, but also I really appreciate that he has a strong desire to really look at what we're doing and do it in a different way. So Father Jay, thanks for being with us today. And can you share a little bit with us about what's been going on in your parish and why you want to move in this more missionary direction, knowing that this is the time that we can really do that?
Well, I think that like everybody, we've all looked at what the pandemic has changed in our lives. And the one thing that I saw from the very beginning was that the connection between ourselves and the Lord, between ourselves and the church, between ourselves and the sacrament, had been kind of very much weakened by just the situations we were going through. And so when it became obvious that we're going to be starting to get back a little bit more, that churches would be reopened in New York, the churches were shut down completely, the Archdiocese of New York, for about 100 days between March and June of last year. And then when we started coming back with very limited numbers, and I kind of felt that we got to restore that commitment, that connection that we kind of all lost, myself included. And so I spoke to a group of people who had volunteered to help us with the cleaning of the church during the pandemic, after masses and the protocols that we had to follow about escorting people to seats, things like that. And I asked them if they would be willing to kind of spearhead this. And so we sat down, we talked about it. Someone had recommended your book, Start with Jesus. And as I said to you the other day, suddenly I realized that we had met before. And so we decided to use that. And then the diocese had put out a webinar in connection with the Prenger Solutions company to kind of, so we watched both of those things. And then we put them together and said, okay, where do we go from here? And we came up with a 4-page outline of things that people in the group wanted to do. And the enthusiasm was unbelievable. And everybody said, okay, we got to get this started. We've got to do things quickly and organize them. But we also, and I think this is important, didn't want to go back to just where we were. We wanted to kind of come back a little bit past that and kind of try to bring people back into that and then kind of talk about the future. What are we going to do? And what's the church going to look like? What's the church going to be like? Is there going to be a church? Will people come back to church in the numbers that they did beforehand? And those numbers were declining so rapidly. So we just said, let's do something to kind of rekindle our own faith and renew our own faith, and then try to help other people find ways to do the same thing. And the thing that struck most of the people in my group was part of your book where you talk about telling your story, that they began to understand why it's important to kind of give witness like that and things of that sort. So there was just a lot of stuff going on, and thank God for some things that we could look at and start with, and I appreciate your help and asking me to be part of this today.
Thanks so much, Father. You know, when I got those notes from your leadership council, and there were, I think I saw a 4-page document, an 8-page document, an 11-page document. There were a couple of phrases that really jumped out at me, and I think for the parishes listening in, they're going to really serve as encouragement to them. One of them was strike early and celebrate often. And so, you know, you had indicated when we had talked earlier that, you know, there was some people felt like, you know, let's just wait till the fall. Let's just kind of start things off in the fall. But the group ended up saying, you know, the time is now. Can you talk a little bit about the time being now and some of the initiatives that you started going with?
Well, I think that we're going to try to send out a letter to everyone kind of with a calendar of events that we want to plan for the next few months. We decided, or kind of this morning, I was talking to somebody, I think what we're going to do is normally in this part of the country, the summer months, there's not a lot going on in parishes. And so we decided that, you know what, this might be the great time to get it started. Let's not wait. Let's get with the people that are still here, that are not away for on vacation and stuff like that. And so we have some ideas about some starting events. You know, we're still under the limits with numbers and things like that, but maybe eventually to have an outdoor mass or something like that, and to have a couple of things, maybe a movie night during the summer, just to kind of get people back. Because I know myself, getting back with other people has been a little scary. And I think that, so, but rather than wait till the fall, you know, most of the stuff, the big things are, our parish feast day is in November. So we're going to kind of aim at doing something big on that. We want to try to get people to kind of start being part of what we're doing, because we need them to be part of it too, to go out and be missionaries. And so we figured, you know, let's get started. And so I think that probably we're going to try to get things, you know, things really moving a little bit at least during the summer months, a couple of events and things of that sort.
I'll pass to Joe in a minute for a question or two that Joe might have. But one thing I really liked from the document that you had sent with some of your ideas was it wasn't welcome back, but it was welcome home. And that focus on the parish as your home, it is a space for you to grieve, to share your story, to find healing. Because, you know, New York was, you know, hit very, very hard by the pandemic. And so your parish was at the epicenter of a lot of grief and loss. And your parish has moved into this dynamic of recognizing that we need to provide a space to share story and healing. And one of the pieces that you mentioned in your document was this idea about a tree of hope. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, somebody had pointed out that we needed some visual things, especially with people that are coming back. And one of the thoughts was some kind of a tree of hope. A lot of places have these memorial trees that they put up on the wall someplace when they're having a building campaign and things like that. So the idea was to maybe have someone draw a tree with some branches on it, and then people would be encouraged when they came back to put their name, their family name on a leaf, and maybe an intention that they wanted to have, and we would put those onto the tree. But to devote one wall or one section of a wall in, for example, the parish hall. People have to kind of come through when they come into church, and so that type of thing, and maybe another possibility was some kind of a mosaic along the same lines, that people would, you know, bring something in, a candle that people would decorate at home, that they would bring in. It would also kind of be the people that, you know, that would start with the people that are coming to Mass now. We'd ask them to pick up a kit. And the idea was to show that this number has grown. At one point, I realized when I was saying Mass on the live stream, and I was the only one in the church except the camera crew, I didn't have any, there was nobody to look at during Mass. So I asked people to send in pictures of themselves, which they did. And I kind of laid them out on the floor in front of me. And you could see them every time when we live streamed the Mass that they were there. And it kind of gave me somebody to open. And I think a lot of people liked it. Maybe about 80 families came through.
That's wonderful, Father. I love the idea of how you're focusing on people, relationships, not just numbers. You're not just talking about let's get those numbers back up there, but You said something very important a few minutes back where you talked about how scary it is to come back. I think we are, many of us at least, are a bit traumatized. And so I know when my wife and I went out for our first bite to eat to a restaurant, we felt like we were doing something wrong. And we
Yeah.
kept, looking around thinking, okay, are we doing the right thing? Should we be wearing a mask? Should we be this close to people? And I love the idea that the movie night and things like that, that you're not just trying to get numbers back, but you're trying to help people get their lives back. And can you say a little bit more about that, helping people get their lives back after the pandemic?
Well, I think the question has always been, who are we aiming at? Are we aiming at people that have left the church? Are we aiming at people that are not planning to come back?
Mm.
And I think, yes, of course we are, but I think we got to start with the people that are coming now. I mean, we've seen, our numbers obviously have been very down during this, but, we would normally get, before the pandemic, we were getting maybe 400 to 500 people at Mass on the weekend. During the pandemic, the numbers that we were allowed us about 40%. And we never really got to all that close to the 40%, but it was close enough. So now I would say, since we've kind of gone to a thing where we can have part of the church is open seating and without masks and things, if you're vaccinated, we're getting, I think, a few more. We're going to take up a head count this week, kind of get a sense of what the numbers are like. But the thought was, start with this group of people that are here. Let's get them going, because they're the ones most likely who would be willing to be missionary disciples, because they're here. But there's the next group, then it's got to be the people that are a little bit nervous about this. So we've been saying to people, if you're nervous, take a look at it, come to Mass, see what you see. If you don't like it, wait a few more weeks or a month or so. But don't just write it off and stay away just because of the thing. Because, as you said, when you go to the restaurant for the first time, I found myself asking every restaurant I went into, okay, what are your rules here? Can I take my mask off? Do I have, things of that sort? Because you don't know what to do. And even mingling with one or two friends that I would see, but me now kind of going back with other people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it's a scary situation. So I think there's a process. I don't think there's any definite starting space in which we can't tell people how they should feel, but we want to welcome them. I think the Archdiocese has always talked about creating a safe and welcoming environment for worship.
Sounds a lot like, the notion of accompaniment that Pope Francis has been emphasizing, that you want to accompany people and have this cadre of people who are forming this core team to go out and accompany others
Right.
on this journey back.
And just to show people that there are people that are doing it already. So it's not, we're not asking you to stand on the street corners and sell flowers or anything like that. We want you to kind of just be yourself, but show people that there's a comfort level, that being back at church, being back with the community, that our relationship with God has got to be a personal relationship. But in the Catholic Church, it's a personal relationship that's lived out in the context of other people.
Absolutely.
And it's not just me and God, but it's me, God with his people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
we have
so
about 3 or 4 minutes left. Julianne, if you want to pose one more question to wrap things up.
Yeah, there's something that you've said it a couple of times, and I found myself smiling. So if you see me smiling as you're talking, it's because you have said this phrase a couple of different times, and I love it, which is start with the people. Start with your people. And I think about, your church as a community of people coming together, and relationships are so very, very important. So as you think about, what words of advice would you have for a parish that's listening or watching, Father, and maybe they're not feeling as encouraged, or maybe they've been doing this for a while and they're saying, I'm tired, or is it possible? What words of hope would you have to share with them?
well, I think, a long time ago, a friend of mine once said to me, because he and I were both of the larger dimensions. And we used to have a set of archdiocese investments that were one size fits all. And he said to me one day, he said, Jay, one size fits all. You better get here early, because on some people they look like vestments, on other people like you and me, they look like a lobster bit. And I think that's the idea. So start with your own people. What's going to work in your parish? You know the people, they know each other. Don't try to do something exactly the way somebody else is doing it. Do some reading, watch webinars, get some ideas, and then let the people kind of come up with how we're going to implement this. Because I think that's where we've got to start. And I always have said it in any parish that I've been in, even in the years before I was a pastor, that I'm kind of like these.
I think Father Jay might.
And I get taken out again.
Yep, he's back.
You're back.
We missed about 10 seconds. You froze there so okay. Maybe just back up a little and go ahead and wrap your thoughts.
Well, I think basically again, every parish is different, but as priests, we come into a parish and we're taken out again at some point in time by policy, or whatever it might be. The parish is the people, and they need to be part of this plan, because when I retire in a couple of years, they're going to keep it going or not keep it going. And so I think that's the thing. But I think that any pastors that are trying to look at this, come up with your own ideas, do some reading, watch these webinars, get some ideas, and then talk to the people that you want to get going in. But as the people in my parish say, but we got to do something soon. And I think that's not wait too long. And don't, as I said, don't try to come back to where we were. I think that's got to be where we're starting right now, and how to get past that and then for the future. Build on the strong points of the past, but not on all the, well, we always did it this way, so we got to keep doing it this way.
Wonderful. I'm going to just add a couple of thoughts of thankfulness, and then have Julianne close us out. But God bless you, Father Jay, for the zeal you have to really seize this moment, this opportunity. God bless you for going back to that nursing home and making that such a priority. Even though you wanted to be with us live, we really appreciate you taking this time to share your thoughts, and you're an inspiration to all of us to say, let's accompany people, let's help people find their way back and become missionary disciples. So I want to thank you, and I'm going to.
Can I just say
go right ahead, and then Julianne can close us off.
I think that I would not have done half of the stuff if it weren't for the people around me that wanted to do it too. I'm great at coming up with ideas, but I'm not always great at putting them into practice. Or I have been told that sometimes I make procrastination an art form. But these people have been saying, no, let's do this. So they've kind of picked up on my enthusiasm for wanting to do something and things like that. So it's definitely, if it weren't for them, we probably wouldn't even be talking today. So.
Spoken like a true servant leader, a shepherd who's serving his people and his people who are taking care of him too. I just want to extend that note of gratitude to you too, Father, for having the courage to be able to say, let's not just stick to what we've always done. Let's do something new and different, and let's really meet people where they're at and meet their needs. And your encouragement to start with your people, build those relationships, take the accompaniment that Pope Francis is calling us all to very, very seriously. Ritualize healing moments like your Tree of Hope idea, and really reach out to those families, to those that are in your neighborhoods and beyond. I mean, that's where you've talked about that too. So I want to thank you for being with us today, and thank you for all the heart and tremendous sense of just accompaniment that you are bringing to the conversation for us, accompanying Joe and I in this conversation, and also those that will be watching at a later date too. So God bless you, and God bless your parish and your leaders that you're working with.
Thanks, Father Jay.